Hi everybody, it's Megan here, the Healing Foods Coach. I hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to watch my videos and watch my content. And for all the new subscribers, thank you. I really appreciate your support. For all of my long-term loyal subscribers and followers, thank you for your ongoing support. It means a lot to me. So today's topic, I think it'll be a relatively short video, but I think it's really important to get out there. And that is that just because we eat meat does not mean we'll never be sick again. And I wanted to put that out there. Now, this may not be news or shocking to any of you. You may already, of course, realize that, hey, just because I'm eating this way doesn't mean I can never get sick, doesn't mean a virus will never infect me. But I actually did think when I first started following a carnivorous way of eating just over 4 years ago, I saw some of the stories that were out in the space on YouTube and people saying that once they started eating animal fats and protein, that they found that they felt so much more energy and they were healthier and they hadn't really had a serious cold or other type of affliction, flu or anything like that ever since, they themselves had started eating this way. Now, and that may very well be true. Some people are truly lucky and they have a half decent immune system so that either A, they don't get sick very often. My father happened to be one of them. He was not following an animal-based diet in any way. He enjoyed his meat, but he also ate lots of pasta and salads and things like that. So he himself was not strictly just animal sources of protein and fat, or low carb even. He he very much enjoyed food from all the groups, and yet he didn't really get sick as far as viruses were concerned very, very often at all. I think I might remember once, maybe twice in all my growing up years that my father was ill and had to take, cough medicine or something for a case of the flu. So it was very rare that he got sick. Okay, so some people do have a better immune system than others, and that is simply how we vary and how we're made from person to person, and that's all very true. Now, I thought that because a few people had been able to say that, hey, they felt so great, they've actually had such an improvement in their overall health, they'd never gotten any cold or flus ever since they went carnivore, my thought was, oh, I guess that'll be me too. And yet the reality is most of us don't have the greatest immune systems. In general, we are exposed to so many things in this life, in this world, mold and toxics and just chemicals in the water and in the air and all around us. And of course, the longer we've lived, the more we're exposed to those things. And so while we may outgrow some of the childhood illnesses like measles, mumps, and chicken pox, that sort of thing, viruses are different. And so I am sharing this video because for one, I personally at this moment am struggling with a terrible cold virus. And you may not be able to hear it, but I've had a runny nose and I've had sort of felt a bit achy and just a sore throat and no coughing yet, thankfully. But yeah, I've definitely been fighting off this virus. It's that time of year when all the viruses that have been dormant through the warm weather start to come out, and the temperatures are dropping, so all these viruses are coming out. And I thought, but that can't be right. My initial thought was, but that's not fair. I've been a really good carnivore person. I've really been making sure to eat all my good fats and all my proteins from animals, and I haven't had anything, no processed food, no carbs or sugar of any kind, fruit or otherwise, in 4 years, and so therefore I should be fine. And whilst my body is absolutely happy and thrilled and thriving because I'm eating this way, that doesn't mean that we're not going to still potentially get sick or, hurt ourselves or contract some sort of a disease or a condition. Carnivore is great for so many things. It's certainly put my fibromyalgia into remission, where I feel like I'm healed because I have had no symptoms for over a year. But as I shared in my video from the other day, I have a genetic condition called hypercholesterolemia, familial hypercholesterolemia, and I inherited that from my dad, who inherited it from his dad. And what it essentially means, if you didn't catch the previous video, is that it is a genetic condition where my body is unable to effectively clear the atherogenic or problematic small dense lipoproteins, the atherogenic cholesterol contained in abundance in the low density lipoproteins, primarily the small dense low density lipoproteins. And so what that means is, even if I didn't make a large amount of it, whatever of what I do make, a large portion of that is not effectively cleared out by my body. So I have lipoproteins that remain in the blood that last longer than they typically should. Okay. I also have a lipoprotein abnormality wherein I normally have higher levels of low density lipoproteins and triglycerides than I do of the high density lipoproteins, which are definitely preferred. They're the favored ones simply because they are the cleanup lipoproteins that the body needs. What does that mean? It means, in my case in particular, the atherogenic cholesterol is the cholesterol that is deemed higher risk. It is the cholesterol that has the easiest way of passing through the arterial wall, and therefore can also lead to buildup and calcium and plaque and blockages and heart attacks and cardiovascular disease. That doesn't mean that always has to end up that way, but I'm at a much, much higher risk of that occurring because of the genetic condition that I've inherited, and because of the fact that I have a lipid abnormality. Yay me, right? I kind of chalk it up to, and for those of you who have not seen this video, I also happen to have an abnormality in that, unlike most people who have 5 lumbar vertebrae in their lower back, I have 6. And while it did not cause one of my discs to bulge out 10 years ago, that extra little bit of movement could have been enough, potentially, at least from what all the doctors have told me, enough movement within the lower part of the spine where the bulge would eventually occur. Just a higher potential risk of overdoing things. And I have a SI joint dysfunction, which I have had my whole life. Don't know if I was born with it or what, but I've always had SI joint pain and inflammation for as long as I can remember. Plus, mind you, I did do a lot of high impact or high contact sports as a kid, so that didn't help. So what does that all mean? What it means is there is no way that me eating animal sources of protein and fat will change those things. A genetic condition is a genetic condition. It is there. It's been there since I was born, and it will never go away. And similar to the issue with that extra vertebrae, I was born like that. That's just how I was made. And so my body will learn how to compensate as it needs to. I used to get so many ear and nose and throat infections when I was small, to the point where I did have my tonsils removed. And that seemed to have helped in many ways. But I'm one of those people that just, if there's a virus, it used to be if there was a virus out, I would get it guaranteed. And I often felt worse than people I knew who had it also. Now, what eating an animal-based diet has helped me to do is, when I have gotten sick, I find that I don't stay sick as long and I don't feel as bad when it happens. In 2021, I actually did get COVID. I think I had a low-lying headache for a couple of days. Otherwise, I really didn't have any symptoms, and within 5 or 6 days, it was gone. Whereas if I was still eating a highly processed inflammatory diet where my immune system was so busy trying to deal with all of that inflammation, I couldn't handle an infection very well. So I'm confident that if I had contracted COVID before I was eating meat and fat and getting my body back to a healthy place, I would have felt far worse, and it probably would have lasted much, much longer. But I wanted to make this quick video to say, look, I don't want anyone to think like I'm never sick, I'm perfectly healthy, I never have any issues. It's not true. As I shared with you guys in my last video, because of the hypercholesterolemia and the lipid abnormality that I deal with, that has been diagnosed and has been shown through a lipid panel and blood work, as well as family history and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not just imagining it. I'm not just jumping to the worst possible conclusions. These are absolutely diagnosed facts. It just goes to show that things can happen to us, to our bodies, in spite of eating animal meat and protein, animal proteins and fat. Now, let me just say that I know it would be far, far worse if I was eating my old way of eating, my old highly processed, carby-based, junk food fueled diet. You know, the interesting thing, and one of the other things that came up in my blood work is that I have chronic kidney disease. Now, it's at what they call stage 2, which means it's deemed to be relatively mild. It's nothing to worry about at this point. And it definitely was not because I'm eating animal meats and fat. That's not how I got it. I looked back through my records from 5 years ago, and that's when it first showed up. And at that time, I was massively overweight. I had a very underactive thyroid. So my metabolism was not working because my thyroid was not functioning properly. My metabolism was not functioning properly. I was severely constipated with IBS. So having constipation is actually a symptom of kidney disease. But mine was made even worse by the IBS because of what I was eating. And as it turns out, the hypercholesterolemia and therefore the high levels, so it's the high levels of cholesterol that I didn't realize were as bad as they were until these test results came in. Those all play a part in contributing to kidney disease. Now, since I've got the blood back, so 5 years ago in 2019, since that time, obviously, I've lost all the excess weight. My thyroid is not functioning properly. I've lost all the inflammation that was fibromyalgia related. My brain fog is cleared. I'm able to move around. So most days I do walk at least a few miles every day, typically. Unless like today, I'm just feeling really coldy and congested and kind of crappy and didn't want to go anywhere. So I did. But most days I get out and I walk 3+ miles a day. So I'm constantly moving. And that's a good thing because that is what has kept my kidney disease from staying at a stage 2. Whereas if I was eating the way I used to, if I was still limited in my mobility, if I was still sedentary, if I was still massively overweight, that would have absolutely progressed and gotten worse. Now, would it have gotten to the point of a 4 or 5? No, probably not. However, who's to say? But it would have progressed further along. And I wanted to share that. I want to be fully open and disclose everything with you guys, just to let you know, hey, by the way, I eat animal meat and fat. That's all I eat. Okay. And it has not made my kidney disease any worse than when it was first diagnosed. And in fact, it is recommended not to worry about sources of fat when it comes to kidney disease, okay, which is great. The worst things for kidney function are eating highly processed foods, too much alcohol, smoking, if you happen to have diabetes, especially in particular type 2, which I never had, but I was getting close, as well as excess weight. And I was obese by the time this came out. I was absolutely in that obese realm of weight. And so that is what caused my kidney disease. But eating animal fats and protein, cutting out the processed stuff. I was never a smoker, so that wasn't an issue. And I've never really been much of a drinker. I've had no alcohol in like 7-8 years because it didn't agree with my medications I was on at the time. And it's terrible for IBS. So no alcohol, no smoking, lost the excess weight. Thank goodness for that. My cholesterol had to be managed better. And again, I know in this space, there is a lot of truth to the fact of saying that cholesterol in and of itself is not a problem. And that's true, especially if we're referring to the large, fluffy, low-density lipoproteins that carry cholesterol in them, or the high-density lipoproteins that are like the cleanup cholesterol that circulates through our blood. The high-density ones are never really much of an issue because typically when they go through, when those proteins are in the blood and they're traveling through, guess what? They just travel. That's it. They go to the cells that are needed. They don't really tend to go anywhere else. But it's the small and dense low-density lipoproteins that tend to have most of the atherogenic problem cholesterol, as well as have the easy ability of crossing the arterial wall, and that's where they can build up and cause problems. And so those are the bits we want to get out. Now, in my case, I have far more of the I have far more of the small, low-density lipoproteins that carry atherogenic cholesterol in my blood than I do of just the larger, fluffy, low-density lipoproteins or the HDL in general. Okay, and so for me, that's why they wanted me to get my cholesterol levels down. Not because cholesterol in and of itself is bad. In fact, it's required. It is required. We have to make cholesterol. It's the precursor for the hormones in our body, which is a precursor for so many other functions in the body, whether it's the sex hormones, whether it is hormones like ghrelin and leptin or insulin or cortisol, whether it's, particularly the hormones, not just the pituitary gland that releases a hormone that then signals the thyroid to produce its hormones, which then control things like metabolism after digestion. These are all critical functions. Our brain made from cholesterol. So as I kind of touched on in the last video, our bodies are able to make, I think, typically 70% of the total cholesterol. Our bodies are able to make 70% of the cholesterol we need in order to make the hormones to then cause other functions to happen in the body. We have to get the other 30% from our dietary sources. So cholesterol is necessary. We need cholesterol, but it's some of the types of cholesterol that we need to be wary of. And so that's where my doctor was coming from, and that's what I came to understand. And so really it's more so, as far as what I've understood, it is the atherogenic cholesterol, which is contained in the small and dense, low-density lipoproteins that can cause issues for us, not just potentially building up as plaque or leading to heart disease, but these are also proteins, lipoproteins that can become oxidized, that can cause other issues in the body as far as cancer and that sort of idea. So the reason, and again, there's also multiple causes for cancer. Okay, I'm not just saying all cancer comes from this, but this can be a factor. From what I've read, from what I understand. Now, the other thing is that there is no way that anyone can ever guarantee you, hey, if you start eating animal meats and fat, you will never get a cold or the flu ever again. Well, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. And if anyone is telling you that, I would probably run away as fast as possible. The thing is, our bodies are amazing and incredible and wonderfully made, and we are all unique. And if you happen to be one of those unique people who has a really great immune system to begin with, and you've decided to go and eat mainly animal protein and fat with some, good vegetable choices, maybe even some low carb berries now and again, fantastic. You probably will feel like you never get a cold or the flu, which is absolutely amazing. And I'm totally jealous. But for those of us who have always had a bit of a compromised immune system to start with, that doesn't mean that once you start eating animal protein and fat that you will never get sick again. And I just wanted to put that out there because my initial thought today when I was fighting through just feeling kind of crappy was, oh, but I should never, why am I getting sick? I'm carnivore. I don't eat I don't eat anything processed, and I don't eat this, and I have never smoked in my life. Why am I still getting cold viruses? Because viruses are also highly adaptable, right? And unless you have like the perfect immune system, which I don't even know if that exists, chances are you are going to still get a cough or a cold or the flu at some point in your life. So, just to say though that if you do, you may find that how you feel lasts for less time, and you probably don't feel nearly as bad as you did previously when you were eating all the garbage, because all that processed garbage and refined crap makes us feel bad already. And then of course an actual virus or bacterial infection just makes it that much worse, right? So I just wanted to make this video again to say, hey, by the way, guys, I'm not feeling my usual great self. I'm feeling a bit run down. Oh, and I discovered that in my case, for the stage of kidney disease that I have, the two most common symptoms are fatigue and swelling of like the feet, which when I go out for longer walks, when I get home and take my running shoes off, yeah, my toes definitely get a bit swollen, which I would never have guessed was a kidney thing. I just figured it's because I'm walking and I'm in sweaty shoes, but there you go. And feeling a bit of fatigue. Now, more of that today is because of I'm trying to fight through this virus that I've caught. But I've had times where I've thought to myself, I just don't have energy. I just feel kind of wiped. I don't get it. I sleep for 9 or 10 hours. Why am I feeling so fatigued? Never twigging that, oh yeah, it's because I have kidney disease. It's chronic, which means I'll have it for the rest of my life. But luckily for me, it's pretty mild. And if that's the worst that I have to deal with, I feel pretty lucky, feel pretty blessed actually, because it could have been so much worse if I hadn't turned to this way of eating when I did. If I'd continued eating all the highly processed, crappy garbage foods that I was, then a lot of things I was dealing with would have just continued on and gotten much worse. So I'm thankful that I caught it when I did. Anyways, that was it for today. And just because you get a cold or a cough or the flu or some other virus or infection, that does not mean you're doing carnivore wrong. It does not mean that you are, having too many carbs on your keto allotment. It does not mean that as strict as you may be with your carnivores, as great as you are with getting in the good saturated fats, which I'm still doing. That helped me today, by the way, to wake up, was having that slice of butter first thing in the morning, and then I ate something. So even if you're doing all the right things and you still get sick, oh, it's going to happen, right? We will still come in contact with different pathogens or viruses or bacteria that we've never had before or that we haven't had in ages, and therefore we are going to be affected. And that does not mean that we are doing the protein and fat or low carb approach wrong. Doesn't mean that at all. So I wanted to encourage you, especially heading into this time of year, because let's face it, guys, all of the viruses are out. All the bacteria are starting to breed and get ready to attack us all. I say it like they're dressed in black, hiding in a dark corner in the front yard at night. It's not, obviously it's not like that. Although it's kind of a fun image, I think. Anyways, just because we get sick does not mean we have failed in this way of eating. And if you're new into this, I just want to encourage you with that. Keep eating this way, keep nourishing your bodies, because then the next time you do catch a virus of some sort or a bacterial infection of some kind, your body will be better equipped to fight it off because it's not trying so hard to fight against the inflammatory effects of all the processed garbage that goes in. So I hope that's helpful. And just to say that, guys, I care about you and I love you so much that even though I don't feel my best today, I still wanted to make content because truly you mean that much to me. So that is it for now. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I appreciate it. Have yourselves fantastic days, whatever you get up to the rest of today. And I will, guys, of course, I will keep you posted. I have some more interviews coming up this week for full-time work opportunities. When and if my coaching schedule changes, I will, of course, let you know. But all the best to you guys, wherever you are, whatever you're up to. And thank you so much for your support. I will see you guys soon in the next video. Bye for now.